Morning everyone then. My name's Tim Corless-Carter and today hopefully I'm going to give you an introduction into OWASP Juice-Shop. So just before we dive in then, a little bit about myself. Well, that's great. So I work as a vulnerability specialist in the Corp's information security team here in sunny Manchester. I spent the first part of my career working as a software engineer, so doing kind of Unix shell scripty stuff and a bit of Java and C++, until I finally saw the light and moved into InfoSec. So I've been working in InfoSec for the past 7 years now, where I've done a bit of everything. So I've done some SOC stuff, I've done some incident response, but mostly I've been doing vulnerability management. They say, do what you love and you never work a day in your life. And that's pretty true for me, to be honest, although I've got to say that because my boss is sat up there somewhere. But generally, I do enjoy what I do. There's plenty of worse ways to make a living. So this is my fourth BSides Manchester. I've been every year since 2016, and I've got stickers on my laptop to prove it. Everyone that is, except for 2017, I think I lost a sticker or something. So if anyone's got a 2017 sticker they like to give me or sell me, then please let me know. I had a look outside, but there isn't one. So if anyone's got one, then please do let me know. It is my first BSides as a speaker, so please go easy on me. If you've got any fruit to throw or anything, then save it for tracks 1 and 2. And I always get a bit self-conscious at this last bit. So the idea isn't to say, I've got all these certs, look at me, aren't I great? The idea is more to say, these are some of the sorts of things you might want to do if you want to go down the vulnerability or pen testing track. So I remember when I did my OSCP, it was around about the time of BSides 2016, and I remember chatting to a guy who already had his, so I got some sort of good hints and tips and advice from him. So by all means, if any of you are currently studying for any of these, or are thinking about it and have any questions, or just want to chat about them, then feel free to grab me at some point throughout the day and ask any questions. Happy to help where I can. Okay, so I'll build this as an introduction then. So just to explain a bit what OWASP and Juice-Shop are. So OWASP are the Open Web Application Security Project. Their stated mission is to make the internet more secure. So they do that through a number of ways. They're probably best known for the OWASP Top 10, which I've not got a slide on, but it sort of ties in quite heavily with some of the stuff you see in Juice-Shop. They also provide some tools, so there's Z-Attack Proxy you can use for some of the stuff we're about to do, and bug bounty and things like that. And then specifically for any bug bounty hunters is OWASP AMAS, which is a really great tool that can make bug bounty a lot easier. And then there's also an OWASP Manchester chapter. So I went to an OWASP Manchester event a couple of weeks ago, which was a secure code warrior thing hosted by the BBC. It was a really good night out. So in terms of Juice-Shop then, so Juice-Shop is an intentionally vulnerable web app. So the idea is to sort of show developers the error of their ways and where they're going wrong and doing bad things. You can also use it for sort of senior managers and stakeholders to show them the effects of some of the vulnerabilities you find in modern web apps and just how much access you can gain. If you're starting out, then you can use it individually to test yourself against some of the challenges, to see if you can hack them and learn basic new skills. And then if you run it for a meetup or an event, you can run it in a capture flag mode. So, I want to move on to some hacking and showing the demo. But before we do, it being 2019 and the year of the disclaimer, I've got 2 disclaimers for you. So, number 1 is spoilers. So, as I've just said, it is an individual challenge, you can do it yourself. Now, when I'm doing stuff like that, I don't like to have the answers spoiled for me, so I never read the walkthrough. So if you're of a similar mindset to me, then you might want to close your ears for the next 20 minutes, because I am going to be revealing some of the answers. You have been duly warned. Disclaimer number 2 then is just don't be stupid. So probably as with a lot of the other stuff you're going to see at BSides today, these are kind of real-life hacking techniques. And the rule for that is always you should only ever do them on systems you own or on systems you have written permission to test. Otherwise, you might be getting a visit from these guys, and nobody wants that on a Monday morning. Okay. So at this point, we've prayed to God of Live demos. So I'm not about to make a fool of myself. See if I can find my VM. That's going well. Right. The password wasn't Tor, by the way, for anyone wondering. Right. So what I have here is a VM running Kali. So for anyone that might not be aware, Kali is a version of Linux that contains pretty much every pen testing tool known to man. It's commonly used by pen testers on their engagements where they go and try and hack things, or you can use it for bug bounty or challenges like Juice-Shop or anything like that. In a terminal window over here, I've got Juice-Shop running. So when you run it locally like this, you download it as a Node.js application, then you run it up with npm, and it pops up on port 3000, which you can go and visit it on. There we go. Now, whenever I'm hacking or doing any challenges like this, I have various rules of thumb. The first one is, whenever I find a web application, I run a couple of tools against it called dirb and dirsearch. So if you just bear with me while I open a couple of terminal windows to do that. I'll just do the commands and I'll explain what these do. 10.0.2.15 3000. Now, dir search, I always get a syntax wrong, so just bear with me a minute. So dir and dir search take a word list and try everything in that word list against the first slash of the web application. The idea is to find anywhere where the developer might have left any files lying around in the web root of the directory or anything that generally just shouldn't be there. Now, they're going to take a little while to run. So while they're running, we're going to go and enumerate the web application. So by enumerate, it's just kind of a sort of hacky, pen-testy tool for just looking around trying to understand it. Whenever you're doing anything like this, you should always go and figure out how it works legitimately and how it's supposed to work before you try and hack it, because then it just, if you know how something's supposed to work, then you can see where it's not working as expected and see if you can find anything, any gaps or any security issues. So at first glance then, G-Shop looks just like any other sort of normal e-commerce website. There's a list of products you can see. If you click on one, it tells you what the product is, it gives you its price, description, and also some feedback. So straight away, my hacky spider senses are tingling because you can see there's user input. So I might want to come back to that later and test for anything like SQL injection or cross-site scripting, any of those. The other thing that springs out to me there is you can see somebody's left a comment. But it looks like by leaving a comment, they've left their username. And you can see it's an admin username. So again, you put that in the bank for later because then you might be able to try and brute force that or log in as it or do something interesting with it. So if we close that and have a look at a couple of others. So again, just, I don't know what that means, but a couple of little comments. These all look fairly similar. There we go, fresh out replicator, okay, cool. Also in G-Shop, so you've got a login page. Presumably so that you can go and log in and manage your profile and track your orders and order things. There is a contact us page where you can leave customer feedback. So again, lots of user input there. So again, I'm thinking SQL injection, cross-site scripting. You can see there's a ratings mechanism. So there's a capture thing, which is interesting. We can go and see if we can bypass that later. Sorry, the rating system. Then there's a capture setting here, which isn't quite working at the moment, probably because we're running dirb and dir search in the background. It's just hammering it, so probably taking too much resources. You can change the language if you want to. I'm not going to do that, because if I do, I won't be able to get back to where I need to be. Then there's a search bar. So search bars are sort of notorious for common vulnerabilities like cross-site scripting tests and SQL injection. So I'm going to come back to that and have a look later. And then finally, an About Us page. So the thing that springs out to me most there is it's just got a sort of standard Latin text. So if the developer's been lazy enough to not actually put any proper content there, what other corners have been cut? The other interesting thing on this page is all this feedback here. So you can see the star rates in the comments. That sort of maps back to the Contact Us page. So can I abuse that in any way to make something from the Contact Us page pop up here and do anything interesting, basically? Then the GitHub page, that's just so you can call in the project if you want to. So, with the web application enumerated, we'll go back and we'll have a look at dirb and dir search. Now, unfortunately, they are still running. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cancel them both. Bear with me. But in true Blue Peter style, I've got a couple I prepared earlier. So if I go and open my notes, an important point on this is whenever you're doing anything like this, you should always take fairly detailed notes. So I use a tool called Keep Note, where you can see in the top left there, I've got sort of a methodology, so I know what tools to run so I can find more information. It's important so that if you're doing this as a pen test, ultimately when you do a pen test, you're getting paid for the report at the end, so then you'll have all your screenshots, all your methodology, all this stuff stored. If you're doing it for bug bounty, same thing, you've got a report later to show people. And again, if you're doing it for yourself, you just remember how you've done it and you can see it later on. So looking at dirb then, the one that springs out from there is /robots.txt. So in case you're not aware, robots.txt is a directory you put in the web root of your directory to stop search engines like Google and Bing and AltaVista, if AltaVista still exists, from indexing particular directories in your web application. So I can manually go and ignore those two green things. I'll explain what they are in a minute. So I can manually go and visit this robots.txt. And straight away you can see the developer has disallowed you from visiting the FTP directory. So, that, to me that's like a red rag to a bull. If he's disallowed a search engine from viewing it, why? So I'm going to go and manually visit it. So there we go. And by visiting that FTP directory, you can see he's left a bunch of stuff flying around. And the one that immediately jumps out to me there is acquisitions.md. So MD is a markdown document format. So it's kind of similar to HTML in that it's a flat file and you specify various markup commands. Then when you open it up in a web browser, it sort of makes it pretty and readable. So if we have a look inside there. Bear with, my laptop's under a lot of stress. So So straight away at the top, you can see it says, this document is confidential, do not distribute. So it begs the question why you've left it lying around in the web root directory. Then if you read into the document, it says some stuff about we plan to acquire several competitors, which I guess if this was a PLC, is probably share price impacting, so the entire InfoSec team is getting sacked. So if we close that one. So one of the nice things about DoShop, when I go back to here, come on, don't let me down. When this loads in a second, you can see these green bars. DoShop pops up a little notification telling you when you've solved a challenge. So you can see this one is you have successfully accessed a confidential document, which is sitting in the FTP directory. The two from earlier, where I said ignore them, was because I'm running derb and dirsearch in the background. It's just sort of generating errors in the background, and that probably solved a couple of the challenges by default. Okay. So back to the output from derb and dirsearch then. So if you have a look at dirsearch, one that immediately springs out to me there is a .well-known security.txt. So similar to robots.txt, security.txt is a fairly new thing in comparison. Sorry, can't type while people are watching. So this is a fairly new thing in comparison. The idea is to tell security researchers where to go if they find vulnerabilities or anything wrong with your web application. Usually it'd have like an email address to say send details here, except in this case it's alerting us to the presence of this scoreboard. So as before, I'm going to copy that and paste it at the end. And you can see that we've found the scoreboard for DoShop. Now this one always takes a little while to load. I have no idea why. So while we're waiting, any questions to this point? No? Okay. I should say, for the past two, before, as much as I hate reading walkthroughs, before I came in here, I'd have a quick read through the walkthrough just to make sure what I was saying wasn't a load of rubbish. And actually, the way they've solved those two previous challenges, the confidential document and the scoreboard one, is slightly different. So they do it through reading through some JavaScript files and showing where, showing certain endpoints. It does also say in the official guide though, feel free to use Kali and leverage some of the tools in there, which I guess is just what we've done and, you know, whatever works. So again, you can see you've got the nice little pop-ups, no idea why it's done it twice, just telling me I've found the scoreboard page. So the scoreboard page is where you come to find details of the rest of the challenges that exist in DoShop. You've got various levels ranging from trivial, easy, medium, hard, diabolical. I think it might be a very hard one. If you do get stuck, you can hover over them and it gives you a bit of a hint. Then, like I said, there is a walkthrough. The one that makes me laugh on here is find the carefully hidden scoreboard page, which is on the scoreboard page. So I guess it's kind of like a recursive challenge. I don't know how it's supposed to work. Okay. So the next one I want to show you, I think it's one of the easy ones, that's in the easy category, is the login with the administrator's account. So I'm going to leave this tab open so I can refer back to it later. And open a new tab. So we saw before when we did our enumeration there's a login page. So if I go on to the login page, and we also saw, we think we've got a valid username, so we had the admin@juice-shirt.op. So of course, whenever you see a username of admin, what's the first password you're going to try? Admin, yeah. Except in this case, it doesn't work. So, one of the other reasons that that OWASP are awesome is they provide a bunch of resources. They provide prevention cheat sheets and evasion cheat sheets. So there's an SQL evasion cheat sheet which contains a load of SQL injection payloads. So what we're going to do now is going to take one straight from that playbook. The idea of that, by the way, they're not encouraging people to hack. The idea of it is if they tell you how a payload works, then you've got a better chance of writing code to defend against it. So before I carry on with SQL injection, by the way, I should say, I'm aware that some people say SQL and others say SQL. I guess it's just a personal preference thing. So I always say SQL, except in one instance, which is, if you thought the film about the man that fixes databases was good, just wait until you see the sequel. So I'm only here for another 20 minutes. Right. I said before the laugh. So in the back end, I'd tell you a UDP joke, but I'm not sure you'd get it. Sorry. I had to carry on with that one. What's going on in the background of this one is it's doing some query like select star from users where email equals admin@juiceshop and password is equal to whatever. If that row returns 1, then it's seen that's a valid login, it's a valid user, so it'll let you log into the application. So we're going to subvert that now by adding this SQL injection payload. So we've changed that query now to do something like select star from users where user is equal to admin@juice-shirt.op add the apostrophe to close a username bit, or 1 equals 1. So unless you're living in some sort of weird parallel dimension, 1 will always equal 1, so that's going to evaluate to true. And then the hyphen hyphen comments out the rest of it. So at this point, it doesn't matter what you specify for the password. You could add supercalifragilisticexpialidocious, it wouldn't matter. It's going to log in because it's ignoring the rest of the query. So if I hit login, you can see it tells you you've successfully solved the challenge, log in as the admin. You can doubly verify that in a second when it loads. So I can go and see the admin's profile now. I can change their profile picture if they want to. I could go and change the password. There's all sorts of stuff I could do. I'm not going to do those because it'll mess up future challenges, but it's there for you if you need to. Okay, so the next one I wanted to show you was, bear with, give a devastating 0-star feedback to the store. So we saw on the Contact Us page, you can give feedback. What I'm going to do now, so if I just type in there 0 feedback. Now apologies, my maths is terrible, so if I get this wrong, someone shout out the correct answer. So 8 minus 2 times 10, so that's going to be bod maths, so what's that? 8 minus 20? 8, no, it's like 6 times 10, so it's going to be 60, isn't it? So if I go to hit submit now, it won't let me, because I've not specified a star rating. So if I go and give a star rating, then submit becomes available. But the task is to submit a 0-star feedback. So if I try and take that back to 0, it won't let me. I can move it back to 1, I can move it back to 20, it won't let me. So if I hit submit, wrong answer to capture. Did I get that wrong? Okay. 12. It's 12. So I said my maths was awful. Right, if you refresh, you get another capture. Right, 1 plus 6 times 10, so that's 61. Is that going to be 61 or 70? 60. Thank you. Right, okay. Blah, blah, blah. So again, it's not going to let me submit it because I've not specified a star rating. So if I'm feeling generous and give them a 5 and hit submit, you can see, thank you for your feedback and your 5-star rating. But our mission was to submit a 0-star feedback, so that's not going to cut it. So if I hit F12 and open Firebug, it used to be called Firebug, I think it's called something else now, but old habits die hard and whatever. One of the great features of this tool is a tab called the Network tab. Or I might have to resubmit that so I can see it come up. I might just have to do another one, just so it comes up in there. 3 minus 3 minus 1 is going to be minus 1, I think. Cool. The pressure of doing maths in front of a room of people. So you can see that when I submitted this on the parameters, you can see everything that I've submitted to the thing, and you can see it was a success. So there's also another great tool in Firebug called Edit and Resend. So if I right-click and do Edit and Resend, you can see it pops up a little window here where I can change the parameters. And it's as simple as, so I've given the 5-star rating there. So if I, in the way of it. So if I change that 5 to be a 0 and hit submit, scroll back to the top. Am I completely in the way of that? Sorry. If I submit to the top and hit send, so you can see it tells me I've submitted a devastating feedback to the score. I can doubly verify that. So if I click on this again and go to response, you can see it's giving me a response of success and true. And then I can doubly verify that, or triply verify, wherever I'm up to. If I go to the About Us page, this is where it's going to start not loading. You can see these are all the feedbacks that were there earlier. And as I scroll along, eventually, so that's a 5-star one I submitted, you've got one that's null there, so that's a 0-star feedback that I've submitted from earlier. Excellent. So the next one I wanted to show you was perform a DOM document object model cross-site scripting attack with that particular cross-site scripting payload. So this one. So I said earlier that search bars are kind of a prime location for things like cross-site scripting and SQL injection. So if I just type in the search bar test and hit search, you can see that what it's done is pretty much just spit out pretty much what I put in. So again, you can use Firebug or DevTools or whatever it's called. And there's a really great tool in it where you can submit an element. And if you click on it, it tells you exactly as that element appears in the HTML, if you can click it properly. So there you go, you can see there, it's just taken exactly as I need it to. So I can doubly test that by adding, wrapping it in HTML underline tags. And you can see that when I do that, it's now underlined it, and again, in the HTML, you can see it's got underline. So, what I'm going to do is use the JavaScript that it showed me. So again, here's one I prepared earlier, keep detailed notes. So I'm going to take that, and this time search for that. And you can see it's popped up cross-site scripting box, and it's told me in the background I've successfully solved the challenge. You're probably looking at thinking, great, what's the actual real-world impact of that? What can you do? So my favourite cross-site scripting attack is as follows. Oh, don't do that. So the document.cookie function or keyword or whatever it's called in JavaScript shows the value of all the cookies that are currently stored on that page. So if I hit enter, it's telling me the value of the continue code cookie. As an attacker in the real world, what you do is send that back to an attacker-controlled server, and it would pump up this person's cookie value. They do a cookie injection attack, which is where you take that value, put it in your own cookie, you can go and log in as them, so you're masquerading as them effectively. The interesting thing about this is, if you look on the storage tab, there's actually two cookies on this page. So you've got the IO cookie, and the continue code cookie, but it's only showing the value of one. And the reason for that is the IO one has got HTTP only set to true. So HTTP only was introduced specifically to stop this sort of attack. It means that stuff like JavaScript can't access cookie values. Now, if you were to see cross-site scripting in a pen test report or vulnerability scan, usually it's a medium, sometimes a high, depending where it is. If you'd see HTTP only, or lack of HTTP only, in a pen test report, it's normally like a low. But what we've done there is combine the two together to give a different impact, and it's a good example of where you can make vulnerabilities interact to do cool stuff. Okay, then I reckon I've got 5 minutes left, is that right? Thereabouts, okay, cool. So one last one I wanted to show you. I think it's a medium, so bear with me while I find it. Is submit 10 or more customer feedbacks within 10 seconds. So, I mean, personally I couldn't do that because you've seen my dodgy maths, but as well having to fill it in and send them. So if I close these, so one of the things I've not shown you so far is a tool called Burp Suite. So Burp Suite is a really great tool. The Burp Suite guys are here today. You should go and talk to them. It's awesome. It's got a number of great features. So I'm just going to submit another one of these quickly just to show you. So 8 plus 7 times 10 is 87. I think I'm getting better. No? 78, thank you. Oh, actually, no, don't do that. There you go. Thank you, whoever shouted that out. So you can see in Burp Suite there, this line is where you sent the feedback. What's just happened? Okay. Is where you sent the feedback to request across. So Burp Suite acts as a proxy, so it sees all the requests as they go from client to server. One of the great tools in Burp Suite is a tool called Repeater. So if I right click and do send to Repeater, so this does exactly what it says on the tin. It repeats queries. So I'm literally just going to do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And there you go, you can see in the background, GShop has popped up saying you've successfully solved the challenge. I can doubly verify that. If I go to the About Us page, it would start to fail at the end, wouldn't it? It's going to take a while to load now. Sorry, bear with. Just while we're waiting for that to load, I should say, if you're interested in this sort of thing, if these capture flags are something you're interested in, there is a CTF run alongside BSides Manchester today. You can find it on Twitter on @PwnDefend. So myself and a few of the guys from my team are taking part. So the more the merrier. It'd be good to see some other people on it. We might even be winning at the moment, I'm not sure, but I'll have a look when I go back out. I can't. Usually I'll put 10 feedbacks on, I think it's that one. So you can see when you do this, you've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and 1 for good luck. So the 1 for good luck was the one that I did just to get into Burp Suite so I could run it through the Repeater tab. With that was everything I was planning to show you. So hopefully it's given you a flavour of what GShop is, some of the challenges, how to answer some of them. You can see from the scoreboard that there's a whole bunch of challenges in there. There's something for everyone really. So the easy and the trivial ones, pretty much anyone can do with a little bit of learning, a bit of trial and error. The hard diabolical ones, to be honest, I've not even bothered attempting. But there's some stuff in there for everyone. It's a really great tool. You should definitely go and check it out. as I said, happy to answer questions afterwards if anyone has one, but with that, I am done. So thank you for listening, and enjoy the rest of the week. Any questions? Anyone want to? Yeah, feel free.
I was just wondering if you had any. So you've tried JuiceShot. Did you try NodeGo at all, which is also from OWASP?
I've never done that one. I've heard about it. Is it WebGo or NodeGo?
So there's a Java version of it, and there's also a Node.js version. So the Node.js version is NodeGo, and then the web one is Java.
Okay, because there used to be one called Damn Vulnerable Web App, DVWA. As I used to, it's still out there, which is another OWASP one, but you can find that in Metasploitable one, and that has literally got a challenge for each of the OWASP top 10s. There's SQL injection, there's cross-site scripts, and there's a cross-site request forgery. There's all sorts in that one. That's another good one to sort of cut your teeth on. Great. Yeah, feel free.
With the capture,
yeah.
Why didn't you have to submit that in your repeater request?
Which?
Is that validated on the website?
Yeah, so what's going on there? Well, let me show you, actually. It's easiest for me to show you. If that's okay, if I've got enough time to show you. This will take me 2 seconds to explain. So what this is doing is client-side validation. So it's a little bit of JavaScript to make sure you've submitted something. What it should be really doing is server-side validation. So when you submit it...
That's why I was asking, because normally you would have the secret key or whatever on the server and then check it against that, wouldn't you?
Yeah, but what's going on in the background is nothing checking to say, okay, is that actually a valid capture? And it should check on the other end, because JavaScript and client-side validation is really easy to defeat with things like Burp Suite or with things like the DevTools, and that's why it worked, basically. Great. Am I getting dragged out now? Right, anyway, thank you. Cheers.